Hello, my friends. Before we start, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. I didn't plan to drive that night. If I'm being honest, I don't even remember deciding to get into the car. I just remember the quiet, thick, pressing silence inside my apartment and the way the walls seemed to lean inward, as if listening. My phone was dead. The power flickered twice and stayed off. Outside, the streetlights buzzed like insects trapped in glass. So I grabbed my keys. The clock on the microwave said 11:47 p.m. when I left. I remember that because the numbers were blinking, frozen mid-minute, like time itself had hesitated. The air outside was colder than it should have been for early fall. My breath fogged as I locked the door behind me. No wind, no traffic. Just the low hum of electricity and the distant bark of a dog that sounded wrong, too stretched out, like the sound had been pulled thin before reaching my ears. I got into my car and started driving with no destination in mind. That was the first mistake. The roads were nearly empty, which wasn't unusual at that hour, but something about it felt staged, like a movie set after the actors had gone home. Every intersection I passed through was perfectly timed, green lights welcoming me through, never forcing me to stop. The radio came on by itself, a wash of static, then a voice, not music, not a DJ, just a low murmur as if someone were speaking from another room. I reached to turn it off. The knob spun freely. No click, no resistance. The sound didn't change. My headlights cut through the darkness ahead, revealing long stretches of asphalt bordered by trees that leaned toward the road. Their branches tangled together above me, forming a tunnel. I didn't remember this road being here, but I told myself I'd just taken a wrong turn. I always took wrong turns. The voice on the radio became clearer. Still with us? Don't stop. I shut the radio off completely by yanking the fuse panel open and pulling wires until the sound died in a sharp pop. My hands were shaking when I closed it. That should have been the moment I turned around. Instead, I kept driving. The farther I went, the worse the road became. The pavement cracked and buckled, lines fading into nothing. My GPS showed a straight blue line, but the road twisted and curved like something alive. The distance counter stopped updating. The time estimate vanished. Then the screen went black. The car kept moving. I tried to slow down. The brake pedal sank to the floor with no resistance. My heart slammed against my ribs as I pumped it again and again. Nothing. The speedometer needle hovered at 45 miles per hour, unmoving like it had been painted there. I shifted into neutral. The engine revved, but the car didn't slow. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay. This is fine." The trees pressed closer. The air inside the car felt heavy, stale, as if it hadn't been replaced in a long time. I cracked the window. The smell hit me immediately. Cold metal, wet earth, and something else, faint but unmistakable. Rot. I rolled the window back up. That's when I saw the headlights ahead of me. A car sat stopped in the middle of the road. Its taillights glowed a dull, exhausted red. No hazard lights, no movement. I leaned on the horn. The sound came out wrong, muted, distorted, like it was underwater. As I got closer, I realized something else was wrong. The car wasn't on the road. The road bent around it. The asphalt curved inward, like the car had been there so long the ground had grown to accommodate it. I tried to swerve. The steering wheel resisted me, stiffening in my hands. I was being guided. I passed the car at a crawl, my headlights sweeping across it. The windows were fogged from the inside, handprints pressed against the glass. From the inside. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The road straightened abruptly, and the trees fell away, replaced by open darkness. No stars, no moon, just a vast, empty black that swallowed my headlights after a few yards. The clock on my dashboard flickered. 12 a.m. It stayed there. I laughed, short and sharp, the sound breaking apart as it left my mouth. "Real funny," I said to no one. That's when the tapping started. At first it was soft, irregular. Tap, 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 like fingernails against glass. I stared straight ahead, every muscle locked in place. The tapping moved, from the passenger side window to the back seat, then directly behind my head. The rear view mirror darkened, not with shadow, but with something thicker. The reflection warped, stretching my own face until it looked unfamiliar. A shape emerged behind me, not fully visible, just impressions. Too many angles. A suggestion of limbs folded the wrong way. It leaned closer. I felt its breath against my ear. "You missed your exit," it said. Its voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I screamed and jerked the wheel. The road dropped out from under me. The car plunged, not down a hill, not into a ditch, just down. The darkness swallowed everything. The sensation of falling stretched impossibly long, my stomach twisting as gravity lost meaning. The speedometer needle spun wildly, then snapped off entirely. Then, impact. The car slammed onto solid ground with a bone-jarring crunch. The airbags didn't deploy. The engine didn't stall. I was still driving. The road looked normal again. 2 lanes, fresh paint, reflective signs. A green sign loomed ahead. "Welcome back." No town name, no distance markers, just that. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. It had turned itself on. 1 missed call, from my own number. Before I could think, it rang again. I answered. "Hello?" For a moment, there was only breathing. My breathing. Then my voice spoke. "I wouldn't stop if I were you," it said. "They notice when you stop." My hands tightened on the wheel. "Who is this?" Silence. Then, "You already know." The call ended. The phone screen showed the time. 11:47 p.m. The road signs started repeating. Same curve warning, same speed limit, same welcome back sign. Again and again, each time a little more worn, a little more crooked. I passed a gas station. Its lights were on. I slammed the brakes out of instinct. The car slowed, stopped. Relief flooded me so hard it made me dizzy. I grabbed the door handle and realized the silence was gone. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the steering wheel, the seats, my bones. The gas station's lights flickered, casting long, broken shadows. Figures stood beneath the awning, too still, too many. Their faces were turned toward me, though I couldn't see their eyes. The hum deepened. The figures took 1 step forward. I released the brake. The car rolled forward smoothly, like it had been waiting. The gas station vanished in my rearview mirror, swallowed by darkness. My phone buzzed again. A text this time. "Keep driving." I don't know how long I drove after that. Minutes, hours, days. The road never ended. The scenery changed just enough to keep me hoping. Forests, deserts, abandoned neighborhoods. But the sky remained the same starless void. Sometimes I'd see other cars, always ahead, always stopped. I never passed another one again. The tapping returned occasionally, always from somewhere I couldn't see. The radio whispered when I wasn't looking at it. The mirror showed things that weren't there when I turned around. And slowly, subtly, the car began to feel less like a machine and more like a cocoon. Warm. Safe. I stopped feeling hungry, stopped feeling tired, stopped feeling scared. That terrified me most of all. Eventually, the road led back to my street. My apartment building stood exactly where it should be. Lights on, windows glowing warmly. My car slowed on its own, stopped. The engine idled patiently. My phone buzzed one last time, a notification. Trip summary distance, NA time, elapsed, NA destination, home. Below it, smaller text, "Do you want to end the drive?" My hand hovered over the screen. The apartment door opened. I saw myself standing there, keys in hand, looking out at the car with a confused expression. The clock inside read 11:47 p.m. The engine purred. The road ahead stretched on, waiting. I looked at the version of me on the sidewalk, then back at the road. I'm still driving. If you're reading this and it's late and you feel the urge to go for a night drive, don't. Some roads don't lead anywhere, they just keep you. I never thought a simple road trip could turn into a nightmare. I always loved driving alone, the hum of the engine, the endless stretch of asphalt under a gray sky, and the way the world seemed to shrink to just me, the car, and the road. That Saturday, I left around noon, my car packed with snacks, a couple of camping supplies, and a playlist I had curated for hours. I was headed north, deep into the country, a place where the roads were narrow and the forests stretched endlessly. I wanted solitude, adventure, a break from the city's constant noise. At first, everything was normal. The highway was almost empty, the trees thick and vibrant on either side, sunlight flickering through the leaves. I was singing along to a song I hadn't heard in years when I saw the sign, Cedar Creek, 20 miles. It sounded quaint, like the perfect detour. I didn't know why, but something about that sign made my chest tighten for just a second. I shook it off. The road became narrower as I turned off the highway, winding into the woods. The sunlight dimmed behind a canopy of trees and the air smelled sharper, heavier. That's when I first noticed it, the sense that I wasn't entirely alone. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see another car, but there was nothing. Just the winding road and the way the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, creeping over the pavement. I reached a fork in the road. There were no signs this time, left or right. My gut told me left. That decision would haunt me forever. The road was rougher here, cracks in the asphalt, branches brushing against the sides of my car. My radio, which had been playing normally, suddenly fizzled and went dead. The static was soft at first, then loud, buzzing like it had a pulse. I reached to turn it off, but it wouldn't respond. Then I saw the figure. It was at the edge of the trees, just standing there. I thought I imagined it at first. Maybe it was a trick of the shadows. But then it stepped onto the road. A man? Or was it a woman? I couldn't tell. His, or its face, was obscured by a hood, but the way it stood, just watching, froze me in place. I slammed the brakes, tires screeching, and then it vanished. I checked the rearview mirror frantically, but the road was empty. My heart was hammering. I wanted to turn around, drive back to the highway, get away from this place, but my sense of direction was failing me. Every turn I took seemed to lead me deeper into the woods. The trees closed in, their branches scratching the sides of the car, leaves falling like whispers. The sun began to set, and with the fading light, the road seemed to twist and warp. I passed signs that didn't make sense. Welcome to Cedar Creek, then Cedar Creek, 50 miles. 50 miles? I'd just passed the 20-mile sign. Panic clawed at me. I tried to call someone, anyone, but my phone had no signal. The shadows grew longer. That's when I noticed the footprints, not human. Large, deep, pressed into the soft dirt beside the road. They weren't from my car. They were fresh. And they were everywhere. I tried to convince myself it was an animal, maybe a bear or a large dog, but my gut screamed otherwise. I felt eyes on me, even when I was alone in the car. The road narrowed even more, dirt and gravel now instead of asphalt. I passed a small abandoned gas station, or what looked like one. The windows were broken, the pump rusted over, but there was a figure standing inside, barely visible. It didn't move, just stared. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Night fell, and the forest closed in completely. The car's headlights barely pierced the darkness. That's when the engine died. Just nothing. No hum, no click, no response when I turned the key. I was stranded, alone. Then I heard it. A knock on the roof of the car, soft at first, then heavier, like someone was walking across it. I froze, clutching the steering wheel. It's just a branch, I whispered to myself. But the sound moved to the hood, then the windows. A scraping sound, slow, deliberate. I dared not move. The car door rattled. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I fumbled for my flashlight. I shone it through the windshield. Nothing. darkness. But I could feel it. The air changed, heavy, cold, almost smelling of decay. Then I saw it in the beam of the flashlight, a figure, pale, faceless, standing just beyond the light, too tall, too thin, limbs bent in wrong angles. It raised a hand. I swear, it raised a hand and pointed at me. I didn't wait. I threw the door open and ran. Branches scratched my face, tore at my clothes, but I didn't stop. I could hear footsteps behind me, long, scraping, inhuman. Every time I glanced back, the figure was closer, moving with impossible speed, gliding more than running. I found a creek and dove in, water soaking through my clothes, but the footsteps didn't stop. Then I saw it. Dozens of them, figures emerging from the darkness, all pale and thin, faceless, moving silently, surrounding me. My scream echoed through the trees, swallowed immediately by the night. I woke up hours later, maybe dawn, lying on the side of the road. My car was gone. The road was empty. I was alone. My body was sore, my clothes torn, and the creek water had dried into mud on my skin. I ran. I ran until the trees thinned, and I saw another road, a real highway this time, cars passing, lights bright and comforting. I flagged one down, barely able to speak. They didn't believe me. The police didn't find a car, didn't find any tracks, nothing at all. Just a stretch of road that led nowhere, twisting in ways that didn't match the map. They thought I was hallucinating, sleep-deprived, exhausted. Maybe I was, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt. Weeks later, I found a news report about a missing vehicle in the North Woods, abandoned. No passengers, no explanation, just the car, empty, in perfect condition, as if nothing had ever happened. I never go back to that road. I don't take detours. I don't trust signs that seem too perfect, too quaint. And every time I drive at night, alone, I can't help but think about those figures, waiting, just beyond the light, watching. The road is never empty. Not really. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear the scraping. Always scraping. I never thought a vacation could go so wrong. I had been dreaming about this trip for months. Just me and my closest friends, escaping the city for a week in the mountains. We found a charming cabin tucked away in the woods of Vermont, far from the bustle, surrounded by nothing but towering pines and winding dirt roads. The photos online made it look perfect, cozy, secluded, and entirely private. What could possibly go wrong? From the start, things felt off. Not overtly frightening, just subtle, the kind of uneasy feeling you push aside because you want to enjoy yourself. When we arrived, the air was unnaturally still. No birds, no wind rustling through the trees, just the dense silence of the forest. The cabin itself was quaint, all warm wood and stone, but there was something about the way the windows reflected the forest like dark, watchful eyes. I shrugged it off, telling myself I was imagining things. The first night was uneventful. We cooked dinner, drank some wine, and played card games by the fire. The woods outside seemed alive, but I couldn't tell if it was just the sounds of the wind or something else. I kept catching glimpses of movement through the windows, shadows darting between the trees, too quick and precise to be normal. Every time I mentioned it to my friends, they laughed it off. "You're just jumpy," one said. "It's the mountains, relax." I wanted to believe them, but deep down, something was gnawing at me. On the second day, we decided to explore the forest. There was a trail leading up a nearby hill, supposedly ending at a scenic overlook. I volunteered to take photos, my camera swinging around my neck as we trudged through the undergrowth. The deeper we went, the heavier the air felt. It wasn't oppressive exactly, just wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I looked behind me, I thought I saw a figure between the trees, tall and unmoving, always out of focus. When I pointed it out, my friends teased me. "Your imagination is running wild," they said. By mid-afternoon, we reached a clearing. The view was breathtaking. The valley stretched endlessly, the mountains rolling like waves in the distance. I set up my tripod for a panoramic shot and turned to call out to my friends, but they weren't there. Panic shot through me. I yelled their names, my voice echoing through the trees, but there was no reply, just the faint rustle of leaves. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from behind me. I spun around. Nothing, just the trees. My heart hammered against my ribs. I ran back toward the trail, hoping to catch up with them, but the forest seemed to shift. The path I had taken didn't exist anymore. Every tree looked the same. Every turn led me deeper into the woods. I was lost. I screamed their names again, but only the wind answered. That night, I stumbled back to the cabin, exhausted and shaken. My friends were there, sitting by the fire, calm as if nothing had happened. I couldn't bring myself to explain what had occurred. They didn't notice my pale face, my shaking hands, the terror in my eyes. They were laughing, recounting their hike, oblivious to my ordeal. The third day was worse. At night I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside, the creak of the porch, the whisper of the wind, felt deliberate. It wasn't just the forest anymore. It was the cabin. I kept hearing scratching at the walls, soft but urgent, like nails against wood. I got up to check, and the front door was wide open. I hadn't left it unlocked. My friends were asleep, snoring softly in their rooms. I slammed the door and checked the locks. Nothing seemed disturbed, but the sense of being watched was suffocating. The fourth day, I started noticing more anomalies. Things moved, small things, subtle. Cups shifted slightly on the counter. Chairs weren't where we left them. A window cracked open when I was sure I'd closed it. And then came the whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the words were distinct. My name, over and over, drawn out and soft, coming from the forest, from the shadows. I couldn't tell where it was coming from. My friends still laughed when I mentioned it. "You're imagining it," they said. But I knew I wasn't. The fifth day, I begged us to leave. My friends protested. They were having fun. I insisted we pack up, that something was wrong with this place. They finally relented, and we began loading the car. That's when I saw them, at the edge of the tree line. Figures, dozens of them, motionless, watching us. I froze. They were human-shaped, but their features were blurred, twisted, like smoke solidified into form. My friends didn't see them. I grabbed their arms, trying to pull them toward the car, but the figures moved closer. I swear they were floating, gliding across the ground without sound. We got into the car and sped down the dirt road, hearts pounding. The forest seemed endless, stretching farther than it should. No matter how far we drove, the trees pressed closer, the road twisting unnaturally. Shadows danced across the windshield, shapes pressing against the glass. I turned to look at my friends. They were silent now, eyes wide in horror. I realized they hadn't seen the figures until that moment. Then, the engine died. We were in the middle of nowhere, and the figures were closing in. The air thickened, and I felt a cold, sickly weight pressing down on me. My stomach churned as I realized we couldn't escape. One figure stepped closer, and I could see its face, or what I thought was a face. Hollow eyes, skin stretched tight over bone, mouth open in a silent scream. I screamed, fumbling with the keys, trying to start the car. Nothing. The figures surrounded us, moving closer, their whispers now loud, clear, insistent. My friends were screaming too, but their voices sounded distant, like they were underwater. I felt myself being pulled out of the car toward the nearest figure. Its hands were cold, impossibly long, and it gripped my shoulders with a strength that defied reason. Then everything went black. I woke up in the cabin. The sun was just rising. My friends were gone. The cabin was empty, quiet. No signs of struggle, just normalcy. I ran to the car. It was parked in front of the cabin, engine running, as if nothing had happened. I tried to call my friends, no signal. I left the cabin, ran down the road, and eventually found a gas station. The clerk looked at me strangely, but I didn't care. I asked about my friends, the cabin, the forest. He blinked, confused. There's no cabin around here, and nobody's reported missing anyone recently. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I saw, or if I even saw it at all. But I know I'll never go back to the mountains. Every time I close my eyes, I see those figures, gliding silently through the trees, watching, waiting. And sometimes at night, I hear the whispers again, soft, insistent, calling my name. I was supposed to have a relaxing vacation. Instead, I survived something I can't explain, and I don't think I'll ever escape it. The forest, it's still out there, and I'm certain it's waiting for me to return. I never should have taken the last-minute booking at the Ravenwood Hotel, but it was late, I was exhausted, and the promise of a luxurious stay in the heart of the mountains seemed like the perfect escape from my life. I didn't realize that the word luxurious might have been a polite euphemism for abandoned and haunted. The drive there was long, winding through fog-heavy pine forests that seemed to close in around my car. By the time I arrived, the sun had fully set, leaving only the cold silver light of a waning moon. The hotel loomed in front of me like a shadow carved from stone. Its sign flickered weakly. Ravenwood Hotel. Welcome. The flicker made it seem almost alive, like it was breathing. I parked in front and stepped out, immediately regretting leaving the warmth of my car. The air was sharp, cold enough to bite through my jacket, and the silence of the surrounding forest was unsettling. No birds, no insects, no wind, just an eerie stillness. Pushing open the front doors, I was greeted by the faint smell of damp wood and old carpet. The lobby was dimly lit, antique chandeliers swaying slightly as if stirred by some unseen breeze. A thick layer of dust coated the reception desk. Behind it, an old man with pale, almost translucent skin looked up from a ledger. His eyes were milky, unfocused, and yet they seemed to see me completely. "Welcome," he croaked. His voice was dry, like leaves crumbling in autumn. "Room 217, key." I took the key hesitantly. The lobby clock ticked loudly, echoing in the empty room. "Thank you," I muttered. I felt an inexplicable chill as I moved toward the elevator, its brass doors reflecting my nervous expression. The elevator ride was slow, almost glacial. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out entirely, leaving me in complete darkness. My heart raced. A soft whisper came from somewhere above, just a faint murmur of words I couldn't catch. When the lights returned, I was at the second floor. Room 217. I hesitated at the door. The key turned with difficulty, the lock protesting. Inside, the room was decorated in Victorian style. Dark wallpaper, heavy curtains, and a massive bed that looked like it had been slept in decades ago. Everything felt wrong. The shadows in the corners were too deep, and the air smelled faintly of decay. I set my bag down and tried to shake off the feeling. After all, it was just an old hotel. Maybe the reviews online hadn't lied completely. I locked the door, pulled the curtains aside, and peered out at the fog-shrouded grounds. The forest pressed close, black and menacing, as if it were waiting for me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind, made my imagination spiral. Around 2 a.m., I heard the first real sound, a soft tapping at the door. I froze. It came again, deliberate and rhythmic. My heart pounded as I approached. "Hello?" I whispered. No answer. I opened the door a crack. The hallway was empty, the flickering lights casting long, wavering shadows. I stepped out, the carpet damp beneath my feet. The tapping continued, but now it wasn't at my door. It was coming from the end of the hall. I followed it cautiously, each step heavier than the last. The hallway stretched unnaturally, longer than it should have been. At the end of the hall was another door, unmarked. The tapping stopped when I reached it. I stared at the doorknob. It felt ice cold under my hand. Then the door swung open on its own. Darkness inside seemed to swallow the dim light from the hall. A smell of rot and wet earth spilled out, making me gag. "Hello?" My voice trembled. The darkness answered with a low, wet gurgle, like something rising from the depths. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my curiosity, my foolish curiosity, pushed me forward. Inside, the room was empty, except for a large, cracked mirror that leaned against the far wall. But the reflection, it wasn't mine. The face in the mirror was pale, hollow-eyed, with a grin that stretched too wide, a grin that whispered, "You shouldn't have come." I stumbled back. The door slammed shut behind me with a deafening crash. Panic surged. I tried the handle, locked. The mirror's surface rippled and the figure stepped out. Not a reflection. A real, breathing figure, wet-looking, dripping with something dark and sticky. I ran to the window and tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. The figure followed, silent, gliding across the floor with impossible speed. My chest burned as I pounded on the glass, screaming. Then it spoke. My voice, my exact voice. "You belong here now." I screamed again and spun around. The figure was gone, but the mirror still rippled, showing dozens of my faces, all twisted in terror, all staring at me. I backed into the corner, trembling. And then I heard the whispers, coming from everywhere and nowhere, calling my name, telling me things I didn't want to know. Secrets, lies, histories of guests who had checked in and never left. Time lost meaning. Minutes stretched into hours or days. The hotel seemed alive, shifting around me. Hallways twisted, doors appeared where none had existed. Every time I tried to leave, I found myself back at room 217, the mirror waiting, patient. I realized I wasn't the first to see this, and I wouldn't be the last. The old man at the desk was there again when I finally staggered into the lobby, though he hadn't moved from his seat. His eyes, milky and blind, glinted with knowing. "Room 217, he whispered. "They never leave. Only new guests arrive." I wanted to run. I had to run, but the exit doors slammed shut before I could reach them. A laughter, high-pitched, echoing, inhuman, filled the lobby. Shadows stretched from the corners, coiling around me. My limbs froze. My screams became part of the laughter. And then the world went black. When I woke, I was in room 217 again. The bed was neatly made, the curtains drawn. The mirror stood in the corner, unbroken, silent. The fog outside the window pressed close once more. I touched my face in the reflection and screamed. Another guest had checked in. The key to the hotel sat on the nightstand, engraved, Ravenwood, room 217. I never wanted to leave, but I knew I couldn't. The hotel had claimed me, just as it claimed everyone before me. I had become part of its endless looping nightmare. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, the old man smiled. Because at the Ravenwood Hotel, you never check out. I've been driving trucks for over 20 years, and I've seen my fair share of weird stuff on the road. Broken headlights in the middle of nowhere, people waving at me who vanish before I can get a second look, strange fogs that roll in and disappear just as fast. I thought I'd seen it all until this run. I was hauling a refrigerated load from Ohio to Montana, just another long night drive with nothing but the hum of the engine in my thoughts. It was late November, and the roads were slick from a light snow that hadn't fully melted. I had been driving for hours, my eyes heavy behind the windshield, and I was glad for the quiet. The call had come in last minute. Pick up a container from the old warehouse on Route 117. Priority shipment. Out by midnight. Nothing unusual there, except for the address. It wasn't exactly a warehouse anymore. The place had been abandoned for years, or so the GPS and the local maps told me. I didn't think much of it. Sometimes clients used old addresses to confuse GPS tracking. I arrived at the lot just before midnight. The building was a hulking structure, windows dark and broken, the kind of place that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. A single light flickered near the entrance, and I squinted through the windshield. There was no one there. No forklifts, no staff. I checked the paperwork. Everything was legitimate, or so it seemed. I got out, keys jingling, my breath puffing in the freezing air. The door to the warehouse groaned as I pushed it open. Inside, the smell hit me first. Stale, moldy, something metallic underneath. Pallets were stacked haphazardly, dust thick as snow. I shouldn't have been surprised, but something about it felt wrong. I walked toward the container I was supposed to load. It was an old refrigerated unit, the kind that looked like it had been sitting unused for decades. I grabbed the handle, and it was icy cold under my gloves. That's when I noticed something moving inside the glass panel on the door. Shadows, flickering, almost like they were alive. I shook my head. My mind was playing tricks on me. The doors opened smoothly, though I had expected a struggle. Inside, the container was empty, except for a small crate in the middle. Strange, considering the shipment paperwork said it should be full. I bent down to inspect it, and that's when I heard it. A faint scratching. I froze, scratching, soft like fingernails on wood, coming from inside the crate. My heart skipped. Must be rats, I muttered to myself. But when I looked closer, there were no signs of rodents, no gnawed edges, nothing. The crate was perfectly sealed, except for a small gap at the top. Curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the better of me. I pried it open. Nothing. Just darkness. Then the scratching stopped. I leaned closer, peering into the void. And then I saw them. Eyes, black, reflective, staring at me from the depths. Too many eyes, hundreds of them. They blinked all at once, and a voice, thin, whispering, not quite human, cut through the silence. Drive, drive, don't stop. I stumbled back, heart pounding, dropping my flashlight. My knees almost buckled. There was no one there, but the whisper followed me, growing louder. It came from the crate, the warehouse, everywhere and nowhere, all at once. I slammed the crate shut, back toward my truck, fumbling with the keys. My hands shook so badly, I dropped them once, twice. Finally, the engine roared to life. I pulled out, trying to shake the unease, telling myself it was just a dream, a hallucination brought on by fatigue. The road was empty, nothing but the sound of tires on asphalt and the occasional flash of a deer in the headlights. But then, I started noticing things. Shadows at the edge of the road, too quick, darting, always just out of the corner of my eye. And the GPS, normally silent at this hour, blared a warning. Route unsafe. Rerouting. I frowned. That was new. I didn't remember this stretch of road being on the map. It twisted, winding through forest I hadn't noticed before, snow piling higher on the shoulders. The radio crackled, static at first, then a voice, distorted and ragged. Drive, don't stop. I slammed my hand against the dial. Nothing. Static. But the feeling didn't leave me. I could feel eyes on me, inside the cab, out of the cab. I tried shaking it off. I'm a trucker. I've hauled through worse weather, worse roads. Keep moving. Keep going. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I couldn't tell. Time lost all meaning. Every so often, I would catch movement in the mirrors, figures in the snow, faceless, long-limbed, standing perfectly still, then gone when I blinked. I tried to call dispatch, tried to radio anyone, but there was no signal. It was like the forest swallowed everything. Then the truck shook, hard, tires screeching. I swerved. There was a figure on the road. No, figures, dozens of them running alongside me, keeping pace. Their eyes, those same black hollow eyes, glimmered in the headlights. The crate in the back shifted. I tried to ignore it, but it rattled violently, as if something inside was clawing to get out. I screamed, slammed my foot on the gas. The figures kept pace, and then I saw it. The road ended. Cliff edge, snow covered the drop, but I knew it was there. Panic clawed at me. I had nowhere to go. I slammed the brakes, but the truck didn't slow. It was like driving on ice, except worse. My heart hammered. Then the crate slammed forward in the back of the truck, loud, deafening. I hit the horn, panicked, and the sound echoed like a gunshot in the night. And I heard it again. That voice, now screaming, "Drive, drive, or we take you." The headlights flickered. The truck jerked violently, and for a brief second, I saw it, a figure standing at the cliff's edge, impossibly tall, arms reaching toward me. Its face was a hollow void, a darkness deeper than night itself. Then, it stepped aside. The figures along the road dissolved into mist. The brakes caught. I skidded to a stop just short of the drop. My hands shook uncontrollably. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the crate. It was quiet now, empty, no sound, just the hum of the engine. I didn't know what to do. Turn around? Go back? The GPS offered no guidance. The radio had fallen silent. But the whisper lingered, just beneath the edge of hearing. Keep driving. We are always behind. I drove until the sun rose. Snow turned to rain. I don't remember how many hours, days maybe, passed. Everything around me felt wrong. Trees twisted in ways they shouldn't, shadows longer than logic would allow, the sky a dull gray even as morning came. Eventually, I found a gas station, the first signs of civilization in what felt like forever. I stumbled out, hands shaking, crate still in the back. I tried to explain to the clerk what happened. He looked at me like I was insane, called the police for me. But when they came, there was nothing in the truck. No crate, no shipment, just the truck, perfectly intact, and me, losing my mind. Since then, I've tried to go back to trucking, but every night I hear whispers, soft scratching, shadows flickering just outside my windows. And sometimes, when I drive, I swear I see eyes in the back of the truck, staring at me, watching, waiting. I haven't stopped driving. I can't. Because the last thing that crate whispered to me before disappearing forever was the truth I can't escape. Drive, or we will come for you. And I don't know if I ever will stop. If you're still here, you're brave. Support the channel with a like, comment, and subscription.